Welcome to Brookside Story. I'm glad you're here. I'm Pastor Paul DeVries, and I'm with my friend
Quin Schultze, a relatively new member of the church, one of these post-COVID people.
Well, Quin, let me ask you something.
Okay.
As a relatively new member
Yeah.
of Brookside, what do you remember about being welcomed here by individuals or
Okay.
the friendliness of
Yes.
that?
Yes. Now we're setting you up here because we knew this was going to be the topic. What happens when somebody comes? Are we friendly? Do we introduce ourselves, etc.? So let me tell you what you weren't expecting to hear. Not about what happened here, but I was recently at a church in Florida, and a growing Christian Reformed church, just very recently. And I asked the pastor about some of their ways of developing growth, what really makes it happen, because this is a growing operation, it's a swinging deal. He said, well, one of the things is friendliness among people. People who don't know one another come up to each other and introduce themselves. And we've created a culture of that. And I thought, that's interesting. What a great topic, and what a thing to think about. Now, it's easy, as you know, to say to people, hey, get more friendly, get out there and do it. But it's also difficult. So I had the advantage, my wife and I both, when we joined Brookside Christian Reformed Church here in the southeast side of Grand Rapids, that we had lived in the area for a while, and there were people right away here that we knew. And so there were people saying hello to us,
sure,
you know.
Sure.
And wondering, what are you doing here? You knew or so on. But what if we had not had that? Well, I'll tell you, there are some Sundays where after the service, I just stand around and watch. This is one of the crazy things that happens to you when you're professionally in the communication business. You just pay attention to what's going on. And in Brookside, I see people going over to other people and talking, and not just staying in their little groups, okay? But if it's a new person who's in, at least somebody that I don't recognize, I will sometimes see them just standing there for a long period of time with no one coming up to them. So that's what I've witnessed.
Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure I've been in those groups, although I don't do a lot of standing around on Sunday, but I'm pretty sure I've been in those groups. How do you break through that? Do you just walk up to that person? And I'll tell you, not that this is what I mostly want to hear from you, but as a pastor, I always feel a little odd because it's like they're going to think I'm doing this just because I'm the pastor.
Yeah, of course.
Which is sort of true.
Yeah.
And yet...
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about this. The first thing is a goal. Everybody wants you to have goals, and having more goals in life, you know, after a while you say enough of that. But here's a goal. And this is what I do. I try to introduce myself to one person I don't know a week. Occasionally, I get grabbed by other people and pulled into things and it doesn't happen. But one person a week. And it could be somebody that I've seen around. It could be somebody that maybe is new or not. So that's it. Have a goal, one person. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then, second thing is to introduce yourself. This avoids the embarrassment. And they might say, oh, we met before, and say, yeah, my memory's not very good. So I go up and I say, hey, I'm Quin Schultze. Glad to meet you. And of course, right away, they'll tell you their name. Mm-hmm. And here's number 3. Get their name down. Get their name down. First and last name. Why do I do this? Because then when I get home from church, I open up the directory and I look them up, and I have the PDF directory, which has the pictures too. And I have that on my computer, and I look that up, and I connect the two to see what they look like again, because we remember primarily visually. So I've done 3 things. I've made a little goal. I've introduced myself to someone. I've gotten their name, and I know you want to jump in on that. How do you remember their name? And then when I get home, I remind myself. And I actually have a little list of people that I've met in the church, and I go back over that list and match it to the directory.
Yeah, so there's so many things I wonder about, and these are questions I often have myself, but others as well. And not only how do you remember their name, but what if you've already met them and you should know who this person is?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you've dropped the ball. You
dropped the ball
you recognize them, right?
Right. So they say, and you know what? I don't remember. I am so sorry I don't remember meeting you before, but boy, am I glad to see you again. So tell me what you told me before about yourself that I forgot. Humor cuts right through, right through. And,
Right.
a little bit of self-deprecating humor.
Do you think it's fair to say that we usually put more of that on us than a person being greeted puts? Because
Absolutely.
I don't remember where I was, Quinn, but I was in a spot once where someone introduced themselves to me, and we knew each other or had known each other. And I said, "Oh, we know, remember?" And the person was horrified. The person was like, and I
Yeah.
said, "It's no big deal. I forget people all the time, and I'm
Right.
supposed to be in a position where I remember
Right.
people."
And I
So-
probably won't remember you next week.
And then they laughed, and that sort of,
That took care of it.
It occurred to me then that the hang up is really with me. I don't want to, because, maybe they've been a guest here 3 times, and just now the pastor is getting around to say something. Or maybe they introduced themselves to me last week, and I've already forgotten. Maybe I just won't say anything.
You are in a difficult situation as a pastor because people expect that you might remember them. That's kind of your job to do that. With the average person there like me, hey, we forget who we are and we go forward.
But again, what I have found, and I don't think I do this particularly well, is even though it's sort of my job, people are struck by the fact that I would say something to them or introduce themselves. And if I happen to remember that I've met before, hey, we met last week, but I confess I don't remember your name. What always strikes them is that I remember that I met them last week, not that I forgot their name. That's just. But how do I remember their name?
How do you? You got to match that picture of them with the name. Now, there are various devices that people teach in how to do this. Think about some aspect of their face or whatever. But what I find
Especially
is,
if you don't have a picture.
if you don't have a
once you've
picture,
left,
now that's
right?
difficult. That's why I have on my computer, and you can download this. It's a PDF directory with the photos. It's on the church site, but you have to be able to log in. And on the video here, I don't want to give the login because there's other material there, private material.
Some of those pictures are really dated too.
They are.
But that in itself can be amusing to just sort of say, "Wow,
Yeah.
that's not the person I saw."
Right. And then next week, the following week, look around for that person and see if you can identify them and match the name again.
And so, Quinn, what's the takeaway here in the church world, in the Brookside
What
world?
is the
but larger-
takeaway? We are a community. We are a community. We are brothers and sisters in Christ. And our name is, biblically speaking, what identifies us. Okay, so with Adam and Eve naming the creatures, a name in Hebrew means to get at the essence of something, to give it a name. So in Adam naming the creatures is not just giving them names, but he's giving them names before the face of God to say, this is a cow, it's God's cow. This is Pastor Paul, my brother in Christ, Pastor Paul. So we use these names to help get to know each other.
Yeah,
And
I
to
like that.
build community.
I like that. Well, I appreciate so much that you took the time to talk to us about this a little bit. So
Don't be embarrassed by it. That's the big thing. Give it a try, even just one person a week, or stick your nose in one little group that's there and cause some trouble, some redemptive trouble.
God bless everyone. Thanks for
Thanks.
listening. Brookside Story.
10 a.m., Brookside Christian Reformed Church, Sunday mornings. We hope to see you there.
Thanks, Quinn.